Imagine for a moment that you are the creator of an entire universe. You design the stars. You shape the oceans. You create life itself. And then you create humanity. But there is one detail that raises one of the most difficult questions in religious history. If the Creator already knows the future, every decision, every mistake, every act of suffering, why create a world where billions of people may ultimately face eternal punishment? This question has echoed through theology, philosophy, and human curiosity for centuries. Because the Bible presents God as all-knowing, all-powerful, and perfectly just. Yet it also describes a world filled with suffering, temptation, and moral failure. And at the center of that tension is a mysterious figure known as the devil. In Scripture, this adversary is often associated with deception, temptation, and rebellion against God. The name most people recognize today is Satan. But this raises a deeply logical question. If God created everything, did God also create Satan? And if that is the case, why? To understand this puzzle, we need to step back into the earliest pages of the Bible. In the story of creation described in the book of Genesis, God forms humanity and places them in a paradise known as the Garden of Eden. A perfect environment, no suffering, no death, no hardship. But in the middle of this paradise, there is a test. A tree whose fruit humans are commanded not to eat, and nearby, serpent, a creature that tempts the first humans to break that command. Traditionally, this serpent has been associated with Satan. But here is where logic begins to ask difficult questions. If God is all-knowing, then God would already know that humans would eat the fruit. If God is all-powerful, then God could prevent the temptation entirely. And if God is perfectly good, then why create a system where failure leads to suffering for generations of people who were never present in that garden? According to many religious traditions, hell is a place of eternal separation from God. But if God created human beings knowing that some of them would end up there, does that say about the nature of the system itself? Philosophers have debated this problem for centuries. Some argue that the answer lies in one powerful concept: free will. The idea is that God created humans with the ability to choose. Without that freedom, love and goodness would be meaningless. A world where humans were forced to obey would not be a world of true moral responsibility. It would be a world of programmed behavior. But even this explanation leaves us with another question. If free will is the goal, why create a tempter like Satan in the first place? Why introduce a cosmic adversary whose entire role seems to involve leading humans toward failure? One possible explanation comes from ancient interpretations of the biblical text. In early Hebrew writings, the word Satan didn't always refer to a supernatural devil. It sometimes simply meant adversary or accuser. In some passages, this figure appears almost like a prosecutor in a courtroom, testing the faithfulness of humans. For example, in the story of Book of Job, Satan appears among the heavenly beings and challenges the faith of a man named Job. God allows this test to occur. Job suffers deeply. He loses his wealth, his health, and his family. But the purpose of the story is not simply suffering. It is the exploration of loyalty, faith, and the mystery of human resilience. Yet this still brings us back to the central question: why allow suffering at all? Why design a world where pain, tragedy, and injustice are part of the human experience? For some believers, the answer lies in the belief that suffering is temporary while eternity is infinite. Life becomes a testing ground, a place where moral choices shape a larger spiritual journey. Others interpret the story differently. They see these narratives as ancient attempts to explain the complexity of human existence. Stories designed to help people wrestle with questions about good and evil, responsibility and temptation. But even within the biblical tradition, the answers are not always simple. Different books of Scripture approach the problem in different ways. Some emphasize justice. Others emphasize mercy. Some focus on human responsibility. Others focus on divine mystery. And perhaps that complexity is the point. Because these stories were never meant to be simple equations. They were meant to provoke reflection, to make people ask difficult questions about life, morality, and the nature of existence. Think about it. If God removed every possibility of wrongdoing, would humans still have meaningful choices? If suffering never existed, would compassion exist? If temptation disappeared entirely, Would courage and moral strength have any meaning? These questions don't erase the tension within the story, but they reveal something fascinating about the human search for understanding. For thousands of years, people have returned to these ancient texts not just for answers, but for the deeper questions they inspire. Because the Bible is not only a collection of laws and stories, it is also a record of humanity wrestling with the biggest mysteries of existence. Why are we here? Why does suffering exist? And what does it mean to choose good in a world where evil is possible? Perhaps the story of God, humanity, and the adversary is not meant to be read as a simple conflict between two characters. Perhaps it is a mirror, a way of exploring the struggles that exist within every human heart. The struggle between compassion and selfishness, between courage and fear, between truth and deception. And maybe that is why these stories have endured for thousands of years, because they force us to confront the deepest questions about our own choices, about the kind of world we want to create, and about the responsibility that comes with freedom. So the question remains, if God created everything, including the possibility of evil, what does that mean for the way we understand justice, mercy, and human responsibility? That is not a question with a simple answer, but it is a question worth thinking about. And sometimes, the most powerful discoveries begin not with certainty, but with curiosity. If you enjoy exploring the deeper logic, mysteries, and philosophical questions hidden inside ancient biblical stories, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Because in this series, we are not afraid to ask the difficult questions, the ones that challenge what we were taught, and invite us to think more deeply about the stories that have shaped human history.